Well, welcome to the Greg.
Welcome.
Wait a minute.
To the Greg and Tim show.
Say that. Welcome to the Greg and
It's
Tim
me,
show.
Tim.
I'm Greg. I'm Tim.
I'm Greg.
I'm Tim.
You're Tim.
You messed me up there. Anyway, I said 2 weeks ago
Yeah.
that we had a surprise in a new year.
It's going to be an awesome surprise.
And we're ready to unveil it.
What?
Are you ready?
Are we ready?
Are you ready?
We're unveiling it
Because
today?
I'm ready.
Oh, I didn't
Today
know.
is the day that we're going to show everyone the surprise.
Is it ready?
We're ready.
Okay.
Come on in.
Come on in. Check it out. Look at us. We got a new set. And we're going to start recording here. We're going to tell you all about it.
Get your earballs ready, and welcome back to the Greg and Tim Show podcast. Here are your hosts, Greg and Tim.
Well, Tim, we're in the new studio. We've got everything set up. You want to tell people what we did?
So yeah, we changed our studio, and I painted it. You did the rest. So just so everyone's aware, like this is not how we're going to look every week
No.
for our podcast. We're going to have a different setup, but this is going to be our setup for when we have guests. Which, by the way, later this month we have our first couple of guests that have already been lined up. So we're very excited about this. But this is the setup that we're going to have for guests.
So we've got the guests lined up. We're going to be recording those, and they're going to go out later in the months upcoming. I'm excited for these guests. These guests are going to be fun.
Absolutely.
We're going to have some fun with them. Some different topics.
Yeah.
Different topics that we're going to cover. But I want to tell people right now, I want to give them a little hint. We actually have 3 different cameras. We're on camera 1 right now, which is the main camera that you'd normally see us on.
Camera 1. We call it camera 1.
Camera number 1. And then we got camera number 2, which is just me. And right now, everybody's just looking at me and thinking, am I going to have to look at Greg the whole time? No.
Some people are enjoying it.
We could also go to camera number 3, which is Timmy. And it's just straight up Tim. But we don't want to put your eyeballs at too much of a strain. So we're going to go to camera number 1 again for now. And yeah, so when we're chatting with guests and stuff like that, we got great technology that we can use to edit this up.
Yeah, so we're really excited about this. But for the first episode, even though this is not our setup for the usual podcast, we wanted to just start the first one in this setup. So bear with us. But this is going to be how we're going to do the entire first podcast from these chairs.
From the new digs.
Yeah.
New digs. So we got a whole bunch of stuff coming up. We're going to talk about the Dodgers later on. We're going to talk about what they're doing still. I still think that what they're doing is crazy. And I think that they're just, we'll talk about it. We'll get into
talking about the Dodgers. I agree with you. It's within the context of the rules.
Yeah. I'll
talk about my point of view. If you can do what you can do, then you do it. We're also going to talk about the Jets. Every week, we think they might lose a game, and every week they don't.
Here they come.
And we're going to talk a little about the history of the President's Trophy and why you may not want it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yep,
it's true. And then we're also going to talk about a topic called mental assent versus real lasting life change. And Tim, you brought this topic up based on a couple of messages
from church, but it doesn't just have a spiritual application. It's got application to life, making changes. And how do people make lasting change after years and years of doing the same thing over and over and over again? Yeah, we're going to get into that, and there's going to be so much more that we're going to talk about. We're excited. We're pumped.
This is exciting.
It is.
This is pretty exciting. And very bright.
And I remembered my cup,
Tim,
that Greg so graciously got me for Christmas. Awesome present. Now we have both our cups here. It's going to stay here, so I always have it. So you know what?
Grab your favorite beverage.
Grab your favorite beverage. And you know what we should do? We should roll.
Let's roll.
Grab your phone. It's podcast time. It's the Greg and Tim Show. It's the Greg and Tim Show.
So, Tim, it's super exciting because, yes, we're in this new studio. We got lights everywhere. We got lights behind us. We got lights around us. We got bright lights in front of us. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. You know, I had seen the studio last week when I came to paint it, but after I think you took everything out, put everything in there, added some things, and it looks like a set.
Yeah,
like it looks like
Looks like something that people will
Yeah.
like to watch.
I could sit and record here for hours and hours and hours.
You know, it's funny. I had it all set up, and my daughter came in here, and she goes, "Daddy,
Yep.
can you record a podcast for me and Mommy?"
Yep.
And I'm like, sure.
It'd be kind of funny. Like Eden, how old's Eden? But just
And
remind me.
she's 7.
So a 7-year-old doing a podcast would be kind of funny. Just interviewing her friends
Yeah.
one at a time and just having kind of silly questions. It actually, might be kind of interesting for
It might be
10 or
funnier than ours.
10 or 12 minutes, a limited amounts of time.
Yeah, it would have to be very
maybe about the
small.
48-minute mark.
It would get a little old.
It might get a little old. But
So she was sitting here, and Lorraine sat in that seat, and she sat in this seat, and she asked Lorraine questions.
Yeah.
And she's wise beyond her years.
Right.
And sometimes I'm
now,
a little.
now that you brought that up and you kind of didn't go fully into the story when I talked to you last, like
Yeah.
give me an example of a question that she asked that was wise
man.
beyond her years. Because you said she's
Yeah.
so you have to give me an example now.
Well, the way she talks is very like as if she's an adult already.
Yeah.
But I think she said something like, "Mommy, can you tell me what it's like to be a mom?"
Right.
And Lorraine would answer her question. Very interesting.
And how do you feel about that?
And she would go on.
Lie down on the couch, Lorraine. And how do you feel about
And
that?
who's your favorite daughter? Don't all daughters ask those questions?
Yeah, but she's the only daughter, so she's gonna get the right response. Well, you are. I
Yeah.
can't say that.
Yeah. No, you can't.
No.
Or you can just say that Eden's your favorite daughter. Even though she's not your daughter. She could be your favorite.
Favorite like daughter in general, but she's not my daughter. Oh, she's your
favorite.
my favorite. Your daughter.
She's your favorite person that's a daughter.
Oh, that'd be who's my favorite? Oh yeah, I guess so.
Favorite person that is a daughter. Oh man. Yeah, so the week's been busy. I don't know what your week's been like, but mine was very busy. Cruz had hockey again. He went to the Moose game. We've gone to a Jets game. He played some hockey. Just a lot of running around, but it's been it's great so far. I like it. It's not the busyness of holiday season.
Right.
It's the busyness of just regular life, but it's been fun.
Right. How's getting back to school first couple of days?
It's been great. School is officially back, and the kids are loving it. I think that they miss school when they're not in it.
Right.
And I miss school when they're not in it.
And you had an anniversary this past weekend. Is that correct?
I did. We celebrated our anniversary.
12th
12th anniversary, and we went to a place called Cafe Carlo here in Winnipeg.
Been there.
It's one of our favorite little restaurants here in Winnipeg. We did that. We went to Migration with the kids to celebrate with the kids in the morning, and did the Cafe Carlo in the evening while my son Brandon babysat the little kids. And Migration was fantastic. If you haven't seen the movie Migration yet, you gotta see it. Cafe Carlo was fantastic as well, and I have to give up a little bit of information. I asked Tim for a reprieve.
And I was going to ask
For
you, and I
my
was going to ask
anniversary.
you. So if you weren't here last week, or if you didn't watch, because it was the first episode of January, the new year,
Yep.
I thought anyway, we should do resolutions. And I said we shouldn't tell each other. It
Yep.
should be live on the air, so we didn't
And
know
it
what it
was.
was. And the one I gave you was no carbs, no sugars, and
Yep.
no rice, which typically you've done, but you always had rice.
I always have
And
rice.
mine was taking showers because I'm the king of baths and
The king of bathing.
baths. I like to have all the time in the world.
You're like King Tut.
Gotta
Just
take,
sitting there
gotta
bathing
take a break
with
from
your
ruling
grapes.
ancient Egypt. I think I sent you that the comedy thing. And so, but you had texted me and says, "Well, it's my anniversary.
Yeah.
I like to have carbs because that's what people in love do."
Yeah.
They
They love their carbs.
So you said you asked for a reprieve, and you said I could have one more bath on the
Yeah.
weekend.
Did you have a
So
bath?
I did have a bath. It was lovely, and
Not just the one you had at Thermea. You had an actual bath.
I had an actual bath.
Okay.
Is it considered a bath? And yes, I did celebrate your anniversary on Saturday
By going to Thermea.
by going to Thermea. So we were doing that kind of thing. I really want to be in tune with your 12th anniversary here. So we had a reprieve, but otherwise, how's it going with that?
So far okay. I think I'm down 2 pounds so far.
Right.
So not bad.
Yep.
I'm not a big fan of it.
Well,
I don't really want to
supposed
do
be
it.
And just a reminder.
I like the fact that I gave you baths and you gave me no
you
sugar.
gave me baths.
Or I gave
That
you.
came out wrong.
I didn't give you a bath. I gave you.
I gave you baths. Cut
Cut it out. I gave you no baths, and I said you can't have a bath. You have to have only showers. And then you gave me no sugar, and I'm like, I probably could have thought of something worse.
So in fairness,
Yeah.
Greg was talking at the break that he was probably going to do something similar, but he would have probably done his normal thing where he does no sugar and then he adds.
Then
some
I still have
right?
rice, or
and,
I have rice,
and who knows how long it would have been.
Yeah.
But just so that everyone remembers out there, our idea, and I'll reiterate this, was that maybe every month we're going to ask people to send in their suggestions of things that you could challenge us to do, and we'll take them on. And I'd mentioned last week that one of the things Greg does very well is he doesn't just do New Year's resolutions. He will challenge himself periodically to do something. And we talked about, no social media, cold showers and all those things to do on a monthly basis. So we have done these things. So we're very open. If someone wants to give us a challenge, within reason, obviously, we want the interaction. So send it in. Give your input. What should we do from month to month? January is what we're doing in January, but February, someone wants to give us a suggestion that we could do individually, send it all in. All power to you.
Yeah.
And it's going to be great.
Decide.
Yeah. So
we'll make a decision.
Yeah. And just to end how my week was, I do want to tell the story. And I didn't mention it the last couple of weeks, but we recorded December 27th.
Yep.
That was a Wednesday. That's when the day we record.
Yep.
And before I went into taping, I got a call that my dad was not doing well.
That's correct. Yeah.
And he would probably pass in the next couple of days. We finished the taping on December 27th. I drove home. It's like a 15-minute drive home.
Yep.
And I got the call almost immediately that he had passed. So my dad passed away on recording day 2 weeks ago. And so we did, and I didn't talk about it last week, but I think that it affected the conversation we had about thermometer versus thermostat. I think it kind of affected that. I was a little bit down the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And maybe a little bit sidetracked, maybe a little bit distant.
You were a thermostat.
I was a thermostat for that time.
A thermometer.
So, a thermometer, and I kept forgetting which
mix them up.
Was it up. So just wanted to touch on that a little bit. That's how our week has been. That's kind of
you've been having a tough one.
So, but that's
sorry for your loss.
Yeah, thank you very much. But I didn't want to gloss over it, not mention it to people out there. But didn't want to speak about it too much. But that's how a little bit of a tough couple weeks.
And I thought because you were having such a tough week that I would make you do work, and that's why I got you to paint the office.
Yeah, well, and that's what I do. That's what I do for work.
You paint houses.
I paint houses, as I've said to many border security agents. The last time I said that, the guy giggled. It was kind of funny.
Did he?
Yeah, and then I don't know if he mentioned anything, but he kind of licked up and he kind of thought it was kind of funny. But there's no more accurate, direct way to say what I do.
There could be Americans could maybe know more about that statement.
There's very little people that know, and I know it's funny. If I told you one of the pastors at our church was a big mafia expert like me, would you believe me? Apparently, it's true. I've been told that. So.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah,
I'll ask you off air.
Yeah,
the one thing we didn't do off air last time either is call our RCMP friend,
right,
to find out if we could have 2 licenses or not.
That's right. And we might do that. We might not. Who knows?
We should do it off air though, because I don't think on air would be great.
Yeah. Do you want to hear my story that I brought up to you now, or do you want to hear it later?
Bring it up. Go ahead. Or do you want to bring it up?
I'm always hesitant.
Yeah.
To talk about, and we kind of touched on it last week. Taylor has a new boyfriend.
Yeah, the king.
His name is Julian. Shout out to Julian. He just subscribed actually.
He subscribed. Well, we
at church. I said, pass Greg your phone, and
he did not pass his phone.
I think he did not.
No, he went in and subscribed though.
Oh, okay. And
it's like you were strong arming him.
Oh, I was. It wasn't like I.
If you want to date my daughter, you must subscribe to my show.
In fairness, that's what Greg does all the time. He just asks for people's phones so he can do it.
Yeah, it's easier that way.
So I just did
whether or not they know I'm
usually
doing
is done.
Yeah,
it's not that unusual, right? So
yeah.
So they came over to our house last last Sunday.
Yeah.
And And Taylor's like, "Oh, this Julian, I half can't stand him." Joking, he was right there, so she was kind of half joking.
Yeah.
I said, "Well, why is that?" I said, "Because he's exactly like you, Dad." And it's like he'll say, "You should have breakfast," because Taylor never has breakfast.
Yeah.
And I always say, "You should have breakfast." And he's like, he says the same thing. And then he'll say something to the effect of, or she'll be walking in the mall. They're going to the mall, and she's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I could use a bite to eat. I'm kind of peckish. I'm kind of hungry." And he's like, "Well, I have these almonds in my pockets." And if you know anything about me, I don't know if people know this about me, and this could be something you don't know about Tim. But I will always keep nutrition in if we're going on a hike, if we're going on a walk, if we're going anywhere, because
Yeah.
I'll have protein
You
bars,
get peckish.
almonds. So if anyone says they're hungry, you're like, "Oh, well, I have this protein bar," and "Oh, I have these almonds," because I know my wife, because especially my wife, she won't know she's hungry, and all of a sudden she's like, "Why do I? Oh, right, I'm hungry." She won't have a clue, right?
You're like an 80-year-old woman. You
I'm
walk around with a
always-
bag full of snacks
I'm-
just in case the gentleman's hungry.
I'm always ready with snacks, and part of it's that I don't want to stop to eat for 5 people when the kids were younger. You know
Yeah.
how expensive it is.
Oh, it's expensive, yeah.
You go in anywhere now for
Especially
5
your
people.
kids.
Well, I think any
I
5
know, I'm just
people.
joking.
And you have younger kids, so you still take when the kids were young. There's always kids eat
It's
free
easier
Tuesday,
to feed them, yeah.
or in the States, like Monday through Thursday, there's always a place where kids eat free.
Yeah.
Every night.
Yeah.
Just not on the weekends, but here in Canada, it's
My kids will be forever under the age of 12. So they can eat free.
It's like, does Avery look 12? No, she's 17, but she kind of could look 12, right?
Could she eat off the kids?
No,
menu for
Tim.
free?
Don't be cheap. And so I guess
I've never heard you be cheap.
I use the word frugal. Anyway, so I
At
thought
the
it was
same time.
I thought it was funny because but I wasn't sure if I should share it, because like new relationships, who knows what happens. And Taylor's not paying attention, but Julian apparently does pay attention.
You'll probably hear it.
But who knows?
That's okay.
2 days from now, who knows what's going to happen with it? But I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Do you want to talk about the Jets?
So we're going to talk about sports now. We're transitioning to sports.
We'll talk about sports for a little bit here.
So let's get into the Jets talk. And it seems like every week we talk about the Jets, but every week they still seem to be there. And you're waiting, like, when are they going to hit this streak where they're not so good? When are they going to lose games? 30 games in a row now. The Jets have given up less than 3 goals, they've given up 3 goals or less in 30 straight games. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Minnesota since the 1950s, it's the second longest streak next to Minnesota, and I think they're at 34 or 35 games. So 5 more games, the Jets will have the longest streak not giving up that many goals since the 1950s, which is crazy.
That's nuts to think that's happening.
And the team is just playing great. They are first overall in the standings, and what's interesting is you have Vancouver and Winnipeg, who at the beginning of the year, most, let's say, experts,
we're not projecting
either to make the playoffs, and now they're 1-2, or 1-3, whatever it is, 1-2 in the overall standings. The Canucks won. This taping is Wednesday. The Canucks and Jets won by a good margin last night. And they're in the running for the President's Choice. And who would have thought that at the beginning of the year? Sorry.
They're running to get a cereal named after them called President's Choice.
Technically. Anyway, so the President's
They're going to have to wear yellow jerseys from now on.
So they're in the running for the President's Trophy. I apologize.
That's correct.
And to backtrack, the President's Trophy has been given out for 38 years now.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is we can talk about the curse of the President's Trophy, or the so-called curse of it, in that in 38 times when a team has won the President's Trophy, being the top point getter in the year, they've only won the Stanley Cup 8 times. And we looked it up. That's a percentage of, if you do the math, 21% of the time. If you take a look at also how many times that same team has lost in the first round of the playoffs since 2000, so 23 years, it's happened 7 times since 2000. So statistically, you are almost as likely or just as likely to lose in the first round as you are to win the cup when you get the most amount
It's
of
like
points.
almost
You're
30%.
number one.
Almost 30% that you lose in the first round if you
So
win the President's
do
Trophy.
Vancouver and Winnipeg actually want this thing? Statistically, you would say no. Now, how much you put stock into that, I don't know.
Yeah.
But the team's playing great.
So yesterday, they interviewed a couple players from the Columbus Blue Jackets, and the Blue Jackets coach and the Blue Jackets...
Who's Pascal Vincent, who used
Pascal
to be at the
Vincent.
Moose and Jets.
Vincent?
Yeah.
Vincent? Pascal Vincent. The Blue Jackets coach and one of the players was interviewed, and they said, this team is one of the hardest teams we've played against this year. This team plays right. They play on the puck, and when they're away from the puck, they know where to go to get back on the puck.
They're number one in the league. There's a reason for it. They don't give anything, and well-structured. They play a good team game, offensively and defensively. They're patient with their offensive game, really intense with their defensive game, and they have an elite goaltender. So they can play any style, and there's a reason why they're number one in the league.
They got some great praise yesterday from these guys, and Pascal Vincent knows a lot of these players because he coached them back in the day with the Jets.
And Columbus, who actually played well last night and still lost 5-0, but they played well, especially in the first.
The deserved
two
win
periods.
meter was actually in favor of Columbus.
Yeah.
And their goals predicted was like 3, and the Jets was only 2.
Yeah.
So it obviously comes down to goaltending too. Like Connor Hellebuck.
Yeah.
First star of the game.
Yeah, and that's why they signed him to that deal, $8.5 million for
7 years?
For 7 years.
Yeah.
You have a guy who can be that guy. Now, this year he hasn't had to be that guy. That's the difference between this year and last year, or one of the differences, and I will get into something else too, as far as some of the differences. But last year he had to be, like, there's some games you're like, well, he's the only reason that you won.
Yeah.
This year, he hasn't had to stand on his head. Even in a game that Columbus played well, and like you said, the chances to win, or whatever meter you're talking about,
Money pucks deserved a win meter.
Yeah, deserved to win meter. The Jets only gave up 23 shots.
Yeah.
So in a game where you could say, well, Columbus maybe stayed in there, or you could argue deserved to win based on the percentage of play, still only 23 shots. And last year there was games where the Jets were giving it 40 plus shots.
Yeah.
That is not happening now. That's one of the things. Secondly, of course, is the trade. Iafallo and
Velarde
and Kupari. And by the way, Kupari is healthy again, but there's no spot for him. He's been sent for conditioning to the Moose.
He's been loaned to the Moose for conditioning. He'll be back. Then they're going to have to figure out a roster spot.
And I think personally, I think they're buying time. They're sending him down, but that's just my opinion. The second difference I find with the Jets is just this: now that Adam Lowry is the captain, and you've added guys like Velarde and Iafallo, who seem to just hustle on every single play. The work ethic is with that, plus
it's a different level.
Plus
right now.
Lowry being the captain, it seems like the work ethic, which was questionable, i.e., guys like Dubois. The work ethic has gone to the place where they can sustain that level of play and success. Whereas last year they got to that level, and you could argue maybe really weren't playing as well at that level, but then it dropped off.
Yeah.
And I think if this team continues to do this, and there's no reason to think they won't. And by the way, the team hasn't missed a beat. They're almost better without Kyle Connor.
So an announcer was talking yesterday to Mark Scheifele, and Mark Scheifele said all the right things in the interview. But one of the things the announcer got from that interview was, I think Mark Scheifele knows now what is expected of him.
Yep.
Last year was a new coach, new system, new things going on. Plus, there was no leadership last year in terms of a captain.
Yep.
There was nothing set in stone last year. Last year was kind of like let's mold everything into what we want it to be and teach people. And then next year we're going to go a little bit harder on the discipline, because discipline is a big thing. The Jets are great at not taking penalties, bad at penalty kill, bad at power play, but great at not taking penalties, which is a big thing for playoff teams. Playoff teams need to stay out of the penalty box, and for the most part, playoff teams generally don't get penalties.
The whistle goes away a little bit in the playoffs.
So if you can play hard 5-on-5, if you're a good 5-on-5 team, that will drive it a lot better.
And the Jets have been
they've been
by
one
a
of the best.
wide margin the best team in the NHL at 5-on-5.
100%.
So, but yeah, no, it's and touching on Mark Scheifele, and by the way, the scary moment in last night's game, Tuesday night against Columbus, he got hit with a puck in the ear, and he skated off, and there's blood in his ear, and it was scary. It's shades of Brian Little.
Yeah.
Right in front of the net. And it goes off of Bemstrom, and then as he's reaching for the puck to deflect it, that's the danger of being in front. Those pucks come fast, they come hard, and they change directions, and there's no...
The nice thing, it was tipped, so it was redirected.
And he did skate up, but again,
Yeah.
right in the ear. And as far as I know, Brian Little still has issues with that. So it's a little scary, and he had to retire for it.
So
But
Scheifele
he's-
got the stitches,
Yeah.
came back out for the celebration at the end.
Yeah.
Good news from what we could hear and what we saw on X/Twitter, whatever you're going to call it. It looks like Scheifele isn't going to have any kind of long-lasting effects from this. So that's good.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah, so Jets are doing great. Let's touch a little bit about the Dodgers,
Yeah.
who are the deferring captain of the MLB. Happened last night again. Tell the people what happened with our Teoscar Hernandez, or
Yeah.
Teo, as we like to call
As
him.
we like to say it, Teo. So Teoscar Hernandez,
Teo!
as they like to say, Teo, signs a 1 year, I think $23.5 million contract
Yep.
with the LA Dodgers, who, by the way, have signed everybody. I don't think
sort of.
Like, seriously, the only person they didn't get was Juan Soto so far in terms of like the big names. We're
Yeah.
going to find out whether or not the Jays can get anything.
The Ohtani deal was beautiful. He signed a 10-year contract for $700 million. On paper. We got him to defer $680 million until the contract is over. This way we'd only be on the books for $2 million a year. Then we told him, with our contacts in this market, he'd make more than his deferred salary in endorsements alone. Meanwhile, we'd have $68 million free to sign more players. And when it comes time to pay Ohtani the rest of his contract in 2034, sell the team. Major League Baseball sent 2 lawyers down to review our files. So I set them up in our conference room and I had it bugged. And the air conditioner turned up so high that it felt like Antarctica.
Look, I know you're not following what I'm saying anyway, right? That's okay, that doesn't matter. The real question is this: was all this legal? Absolutely not.
I heard that the Jays might get, what's his name, Ricky Vaughn from the defunct Cleveland.
Wild thing.
Yeah. The Cleveland
Give him
baseball
his
team.
glasses. Make sure he comes with his
Yeah,
glasses.
he needs his glasses. We might get Ricky Vaughn and Taylor and
Can we get-
Dorn.
can we
We're going to get Dorn.
Let's get Move on too.
Mo Vaughn. Yeah, with that swing. Oh, man. What are you doing, Dorn? Get down.
Oh, you do a great Major League.
I don't know if I could do it right now. The coffee in my voice. But so the thing with Teoscar Hernandez right now is Teoscar Hernandez actually signed the $23.5 million contract, and then the Dodgers basically diverted it
Deferred. Yeah.
5 years from now
Yeah.
to be paying them. He's only going to get paid $50 million this year, and $8.5 million is going to be paid over 5 years or 10 years. Sorry,
Yep.
over 10 years in 5 years. So from 2030 to 2040,
Yep.
Teoscar Hernandez is going to get like $750,000 a year.
It's food stamps.
Food stamps for the baseball player. But he's going to be able to sign again next year. This is like a stepping stone for his contract, $23.5 million.
Yeah.
If he has a good year with the Dodgers this year,
Yeah.
he could sign a multi-year deal next year. But the Dodgers are saving money
Yeah.
again on this luxury tax.
Until they close that loophole, they're going to keep doing it. And the bigger question is, why doesn't any other team do it too?
Yet. So a friend of mine texted me and said, this is a loophole very similar to what Alex Anthopoulos used to do.
Right.
I don't know if you've heard about this because I didn't actually tell you. I wanted to give it to you live here on the
Yep.
show. Alex Anthopoulos used to trade for players.
Yep.
And then he would trade for the player the day before free agency, and he would release them after he traded them in order to get a supplemental pick.
Right.
So one of the examples was a player that they traded to a team for $500,000. So they got a player, they gave $500,000 for that player, and basically released the player, got the supplemental draft pick,
Yeah.
And the supplemental draft pick cost them $500,000.
Right.
But it gave them another draft pick in the draft.
Yeah.
And from there, they drafted for this one. It was Dwight Smith Jr.,
right?
Who was a player who was supposed to get good,
and
never
heard of him.
He was the one that wore the hat with. He had the bandana under the hat.
Yeah,
he played outfield. But anyway, there is other players for the Jays.
Yeah.
We couldn't for the limited time that I had to prepare for this.
Yeah.
There is other players for the Jays that came through this supplemental draft.
Yeah.
And apparently Alex Anthopoulos was very known to do this, and I think they closed the loop on that since.
Right.
So there's always loopholes in CBAs.
Yeah, but I mean, this one is a little like we've never seen this kind of a deferring salary before, so it is a little different.
Well, we've seen deferred salaries before,
not like this,
but
like
they're going all in.
Deal, and now we've seen deferring salaries, but not like this.
So they got Yamamoto,
yeah,
Ohtani,
yeah,
Hernandez.
Yeah.
Who's next?
I'm available if the Dodgers are in any way
to do what? Be a bat boy?
I'll do anything, and I'll defer whatever you want.
You could be a Batman.
Be a
so Tim the Batman.
So the whole league now, though, is upset at the Dodgers because they're spending all this money. But let's remember, and
let's face it.
Just because you spend a lot of money doesn't mean you're going to win. A year ago, everyone was mad at the GM of the Mets because he was like spending like there was no tomorrow, and the Mets stunk. So the
Mets got all those pitching, like Verlander
Yeah.
and Scherzer.
Yeah. They were horrible.
They were going to go after Correa, but Correa failed the medical.
Yeah.
Like they were trying to bulk up as well.
Yeah.
Verlander got traded.
Yeah.
Scherzer got traded.
Sometimes it does
and
not
Verlander
work out.
and Verlander and Scherzer actually faced each other in the ALCS.
Yeah.
Because they got traded to Texas and Houston.
And that's the old joke. Like people online are like, well, the Dodgers paid all this money just so they can lose in the whatever before the World Series, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what they do. Like they underachieve.
Yeah.
And Kershaw, who I'm not sure how many years he has left, he gave up, he's horrible in that deciding Game 7 against Arizona, right? So
hey, who knows? They might get Trevor Bauer back.
I want Trevor Bauer. Why don't the Jays sign Trevor Bauer?
He's one of those players that's like do not touch, I think.
He was
so we'll see what the
anyway.
We'll see if anybody captures.
Let's not get into that.
Yeah.
There's a whole big story. I think we might have talked about it before, or maybe we didn't. But Google it. Trevor Bauer, interesting story.
Yeah. And remember that everything that happened to him was thrown out of court, and we will leave it at that for now.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, let's move on to the final topic of the day.
Our big one.
This is the topic of the day, so let's roll the music, Tim.
Okay, hooray! It's time for the topic of the day.
Beep, beep, I'd forget how the music. Oh, hey, hooray! It's time for the topic of the day. Ring!
Yeah.
That's not how the sound sounded at all. So
that's 2 days. That's 2 episodes in a row where you sang this music after we played the music.
Right.
Like, do you think that people get that deja vu, or do you think that the produced music sounds better?
People are clamoring to not just hear me do it taped, but to also do it live, because I am a professional.
You should sing it live.
Yeah,
you should do it live.
We should record like a full album of all our jingles. It'll be like the dogs barking,
all
the
2
Christmas
of them,
carols or whatever.
Okay.
Anyway, so enough silliness, because these are all topics that we take a little bit more seriously. So
the topic of the day is a little bit more serious.
Yeah. So 2 weeks ago, Pastor Danny, who's a good friend of ours, he did a show.
Oh, he's a good friend of mine.
He did.
He says he's iffy on your friendship right now.
That hurts.
Well,
that hurts.
He says you're working on it.
Working on it?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, we're not going to touch on that.
Hey, did you notice I'm not coughing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm better now.
Good job.
Yeah.
So Pastor Danny did a message where he talked about mental assent versus actual change, actual faith. That was 2 weeks ago. This past Sunday, Pastor Zach did a message where he kind of elaborated on that a little bit more.
Yeah.
But this idea that it kind of came to me about what is just, hoping for the best
Yeah.
versus actually making changes for the best. And I'm going to premise this with a message series that I'll always remember from like 15 years ago. And that's when Pastor Leon, who's now passed, he did a message. It was called the Blueprint Message.
Okay.
And what he said was everything in your life that you learn till now is learned behavior that is stuck in your subconscious. You don't think about it every day. So he used the example of when you have an idea of what a marriage is between a man and a wife, based on your parents, based on what you've been taught as a child, and it's kind of stuck in your subconscious, so that when you're dating, you might have a certain reaction to things, and this is how you behave.
Yeah.
But the second you get married, that blueprint all of a sudden snaps into place, and you react to it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I was thinking of based on this topic. Also, thinking about, I think social science will say that we learn pretty much all our behaviors by the age of like 8 or 10. Our personality, our behavior is entrenched. So someone who is, 20, 30, 40 years old is built, all of this stuff is built into them.
So I like what Pastor Leon used to say. How do you say it? He would say something like, something about your BS.
Belief systems, yeah.
Yeah, well, he would always call it BS.
Yeah.
Right? You have to work on your BS.
Yeah.
And it was your belief system.
Yeah.
And your belief system is what's entrenched in you when you're young.
Yeah.
And when you're young, it's easier to impress on people what your belief systems are. And as you get older, it's harder to change those habits or harder to change those beliefs.
Right. So so the idea for me, and I've often thought about, what is hopeful thinking versus actual change. And I sent you the clip from It's a Wonderful Life where he just repeats the phrase, hot diggity dog, I get $1 million or whatever.
Yeah, we'll check it out here.
I wish I had $1 million. Hot dog!
And I thought it was interesting because sometimes we say these little phrases that we don't actually believe.
That's correct.
And it's wishful thinking. I wish I have $1 million, and go play the lottery, and it's just a wish, right? We're not actually doing anything to change. And the idea being, how does one person that has, and I've often thought about this too in life, why does one person that has the exact same situation scenario where everything has kind of been, or negative situation, and
they're happy.
They're happy,
Yeah.
and they become, the president of the United States or whatever, and another person with the exact same situation, it lives in a gutter, down the street.
Yeah.
Why are people's reactions the way they are, which has always fascinated me. But yeah, like this is kind of the idea of the topic, and I'd be interested to see your point of view in that. But it's just something that's always intrigued me. And when we heard the messages, we were talking about, when I think Danny used the example, people 60% of the people that buy books, he used the example, just feel better that they buy the book and they don't actually read a book.
Yeah.
I started realizing I'm really good, and maybe some of you guys can identify with this, I'm really good at mental assent instead of renewing my mind. Let me kind of explain that. And you don't have to raise your hand and admit this, but they say 40 to 50% of books bought are never read. Mental assent. Well, I bought the book. I bought it. How many people buy something and they're like, you know what? This year, I am going to learn how to play the keyboard. So they go out and they buy a keyboard and they never play it. Mental assent.
Right? So
you actually get smarter by just buying a book. That's what I was told.
Or you think you get smarter.
I got some books here that made me smarter.
Yeah. By the way, Malcolm Gladwell, I saw that. I heard him speak at one of the events that we were at.
Oh yeah,
yeah, in Chicago at the summit in Willow Creek a couple years ago. Really good.
Yeah,
fantastic speaker. But yeah, like those are some of the things that kind of pop around in my head when we talk about this.
The one thing that popped into my head when I heard Danny's message was he was talking about how somebody who gets a silver medal in the Olympics is upset about getting a silver medal in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And then somebody who gets the bronze medal in the Olympics in team sports are generally excited that they got a bronze medal.
Yeah.
So the difference between the two is the silver medalist lost the game and the bronze medalist won the game. And I liken it to a hockey player just recently that actually tossed his medal over top of the glass. And I think this is the second time this has happened.
Yeah.
It just happened again where the hockey player got the silver medal in the juniors and just tossed it over the glass.
Yeah.
Now, who knows who he's tossing it to, if it's a family member or a friend or what. But it just goes to show that it's all about perspective in life. The silver medalist is upset that they came second.
Yeah.
The bronze medalist is excited that they won third because they won third.
Yeah, and there's
right?
there's certainly a level of expectation too. Typically your bronze medalist is not the one who may be expected to win gold.
Yeah.
Whereas the gold and silver medals, especially in hockey, and there's also that slide about the women's hockey team. Well, it's going to be the Canadian or U.S. team is going to win in women's hockey because generally, and so the one that wins silver is expecting to win gold, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So expectation level, all of those things come into play. But going back to like what when you just say something like I want to lose weight, but you never do.
Yeah.
Right. Just speaking something like a magic potion, speaking it over and over and over, but it doesn't actually get into your depths of your soul, if you want to say.
Yeah.
How do you get to a place where what you're speaking, and I'll reference the stat that I had before that I sent you, is that I think I heard a stat that the average amount of thoughts that people have per day is like 60,000.
Yeah.
And I think that
we have more.
It's just an average of 60,000 thoughts a day.
Yeah.
And 75% of them, it's not up there, but 75% were negative. 75 to 80% were negative thoughts.
Yeah.
And of those 60,000 thoughts, 90,000 are repetitive, which means they're not new thoughts.
90% are
90% are repetitive.
Of
They're
the
over and over and over. So they're negative, they're
Yep.
repetitive, they're not new, they're unrenewed, if you want to use a church term.
Yep.
All of those things. So like, how do you get over that negative talk? And a lot of them subconscious,
Yeah.
right? We don't know. It's rolling around. It affects how you react. It affects how you behave. It affects how you talk to people, interact.
So generally what people think is what they are.
Yeah.
I think, therefore I am.
Right.
Is the statement, right? And a lot of the times people are thinking, oh, I'm going to fail at this. Oh, I'm going to be late. Oh, I'm going to not get this done in time. Oh, I'm not going to hit the deadline. All these negative thoughts that are in people's, what Pastor Zach said is the stinking thinking.
Yeah.
Right? All of those things that are in your mind that are really pushing you to fail.
Yeah.
Now, if you could change that thought at the moment that it happens, where you say, oh, I'm going to get this done.
Yeah.
I will get this done. I have the ability. I will get it done.
Yeah.
Or if you think like, I'm going to be like, no, I'm going to be on time. I'm going to get ready earlier. And, like all these different things, you've got to catch yourself.
Yeah.
You got to catch your thoughts when it happens and turn it around into a positive right away.
Right. And like, I know we come at it from a Christian perspective and specifically church and specifically in Winnipeg at Springs, but this is something that is far more than just in the spiritual aspect,
No,
right?
exactly.
Athletes do this too.
Yep.
Entertainers do this, professionals do this, salespeople do this.
Yep.
In that you're told to visualize, like, imagine you are in this place. And when you imagine, you're thinking positive thoughts, right? You're feeling that, yes, I am going to do this. Like you said, I'm going to finish this deadline.
Yep.
I'm going to get this done, but you're doing it mentally, right?
And the other thing too is if you can say it out loud, your brain will believe it more.
Right.
So when I talked to you about this podcast studio, when I said, hey, Tim, I got an idea for the podcast studio, I had been thinking about it already. and thinking about it a lot, but it didn't become real in my mind
Right.
until I actually started talking to you and Lorraine
Right.
about it. And by talking about it and by putting it into action, and by, last week saying, come on over, check this out. I want to show you what I have in mind.
Yeah.
Once we start talking about it, it became more real.
Yeah.
And the realness became this,
Yeah.
what we're in right now.
Yeah.
And it's like Lorraine always talks about manifestation.
Right.
What happens when you manifest stuff, it generally happens to you.
Yeah.
And if you manifest negativity and you manifest stuff being wrong,
Yeah.
it's going to happen. I continuously say, this podcast is going to record well. This podcast is going to look great. This show is going to be something that people are going to listen to. And I say those things out loud to myself.
Yeah.
I think that helps us
And
to get better.
I think you can connect that thought with also what we talked about a few weeks ago about the improvement of 1%.
Yeah.
Like James Clear in a book we talked about a few weeks ago talks about the
Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits improvement of the 1%. So going back to like a New Year's resolution, and I think the example is used on Sunday too. It's like, well, I'm doing something for a week. Oh, I don't see abs.
Yeah.
I'm doing something, I haven't lost any weight.
Yep.
Because the expectation level is I need it now, and if I don't see results, I'm going to give up. But we
live in a society of
1%.
right now.
Like and I always bring this back to weight because I don't know if anybody knows this, but I've been anywhere from 175 pounds to 285 pounds, which is it's 110.
That's a big fluctuation, yeah.
Right? And so
that's like carrying a billy with you.
I know what it's like to lose weight.
Yeah.
And it's slow.
Yeah.
The process is slow. And sometimes in life, but all of a sudden you wake up one morning and you're like, wow, it happened overnight. And it's not true. It didn't happen overnight. It happened slowly over time.
Yeah.
And it's that gradual, that 1%. This week, and use the example of, improving a studio setup that for the podcast where we're doing this week. And the next time, you have some guests, and that's our example, but everyone else's example can be similar in whatever avenue it is in life.
I actually learned a new editing technique this week because I said, I'm like, I need to learn a new editing technique because in my mind, I was saying, this is going to be hard.
Right.
This is going to be tough. And then I'm like, no. I'm going to learn how to do this.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn how to edit all 3 cameras.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn how to match up the audio, and it's going to be easy.
Right.
Now we'll see. I truly do think it's going to be something that I'm going to be able to do.
Right.
But it's going to take work.
Yeah. For me, that's something I've had to challenge myself because sometimes I can say it's something I don't know. It's unknown. I don't know how to do it, so I'm not going to try because I don't have confidence level in that area.
Yeah.
Where I'm just going to struggle at it, and I try to get out of my comfort zone. But for me, it sometimes seems like that transition or that improvement just takes so much time. I get frustrated. So I try to as best I can, and sometimes it's gradual. It's very slow, and it can be frustrating, which I'm sure is something that a lot of people deal with.
Yeah,
but I'm trying.
So one of the things that that Zach is doing this week or this year, I guess, he's going to do 52 of them. He's doing declarations.
Yeah.
And now you can do this as a Christian or a non-Christian.
Yeah.
You can do this in your life just in general. He's got 52 declarations that he's putting out. And the reason he's not doing a daily one is because he wants you to repeat this every day for a week so that you're planting it in your brain, right? So you can make the declaration something like, I am going to lose weight today. Or thank you for making me lose weight today. Thank you for giving me the strength to work out. Thank you for this.
There's a preacher, and I don't remember who it is, but he told the story of somebody that said he was a chain smoker and he just loves cigarettes. And he just like, how do I get out of this habit of, because I'm wrecking my life. It's my lungs. I need to get off of it. And he said, every day he said, I hate cigarettes. They're disgusting. And I don't want to have another cigarette. And he never changed anything else, but every day he said
planted that in his brain.
And all of a sudden and it didn't happen automatically, but 3 weeks later, all of a sudden he's like, it literally came true where that cigarette was disgusting.
Yep.
He didn't want to have any anymore, and he just got rid of it. And I don't remember who said the story. I'll find it, but that was the story.
Yeah.
And that's what it reminds me of when you say that.
So it's something that he's doing for this year. I think that all of us can really learn from that, whether it is just planting yourself at being a better person or losing weight or taking showers. Showers are good. I love showers, is what Tim says every morning.
Well, I don't have to.
And then he waits until the evening to have one.
I don't have one in the morning.
Yeah,
it's usually later on, and that's because half the time because I'm working at the night shift too. So, but.
Yeah, and also you want to shower after you've worked because you work a labor job.
Yeah.
Whereas I work an office job.
Right.
So we have two different styles of jobs. So
Right.
I like to smell good when I'm at the office. You like to smell good when you're at home.
Yeah.
Right? Am I correct?
Once a day to smell good is fine.
Once a day
Doesn't
to
matter
smell
what
good,
it is.
as long as it's for a half an hour. Anyway, anything else you want to add to that?
No, I mean, there's no easy answers to it, and it's just a topic that interests me that kind of connects to some other ones. And if people have thoughts about that topic that they want to share with us,
leave them in the comments.
Yeah, I'm all ears.
Yeah, I think that if there's something that you're declaring in your life right now, it would be great if you commented on the video and tell us what you're declaring.
Yeah.
And we will help and also comment on your comment and tell us, we will tell you that you will also achieve that.
Yeah.
There's a guy that we follow on Twitter. They have a podcast and they said that they're doing things that are changing and they're growing and they want to get better. And I declared that they would in Twitter, right? Because we're not as powerful individually as we are as a collective.
Yeah.
And I think as a collective, we could be way more powerful. So, encourage your friends, encourage the people around you, and help grow them because they're going to help you grow when you need it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those very, very, very wise words.
Awesome. Anyway, thanks for watching the show today. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, the X, I guess you call it, Facebook. Where else are we? We're not on Snapchat, TikTok. We're on the old tickety-tockety. And so we'll
and if you can't find it's not working, then you got to reinstall the app. I think you did some problem solving.
No, that was Spotify for one of the listeners. The other thing too is, again, we've got some guests coming up.
Yeah.
They're going to be something that we want to share different perspectives on different things. And I'm really looking forward to that. Next week, we're going to still have a similar podcast to this, but we're going to be back at the table. And the other thing too is to share this with your friends.
Yeah.
Because if you have any guests or people that you think would be great on the show, let us know. Send us an email, gregandtimshow@gmail.com. Send us an email. We will reach out to that guest. I've got another one I'll tell you about off air that I think we're very close to. So,
and if you want to be a guest here,
contact us. If you have an interesting story to share, we would love to hear it.
Absolutely.
We got an extra seat right over there, but you, as a guest, you'd get to have my seat. I'd give it up. You got to give up the good seat for when you have a guest.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Tim, because it's the Greg and Tim show,
I always have to be.
You always have to be on my left.
The truth is, he's deaf in one ear.
I am.
And so I always have to face the good ear.
That's right.
And that's true.
Thanks for sharing.
It's
Let's
true.
face it. Thanks for watching. And let's fill everybody's earballs with the Greg and Tim show. Have a great day.
Have a great day.
Just how you feel. You got to roll with the punches.
Thank you for joining me again today, Tim. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for watching the Greg and Tim Show podcast. See you again next week. Don't forget to subscribe, and share with all your friends. Sharing is caring.